Okay, welcome to another kitchen sink microscopy. I'm Eric Rosenblatt, and we'd love it if you'd like and share this video, subscribe to the channel, and all that stuff. That's what cool kids do, and you want to be cool too, don't you?
Sphincter says what?
Huh?
Sphincter says what? Damn it. Could never get that to work. I'm Casey Rochford, and I am a adolescent at heart. And we would love it if you would hang out to the end and check out the music that we write, which is also adolescent at heart, but sometimes pretty deep. That's what she said. So, while being adolescent is fun and all, what should we get down to business on today?
Well, I think it has been quite some time since we've done a lightning round.
It's been a while.
So yeah, let's go and let's do a lightning round.
Lightning round.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. It has been a while, and we haven't done one in season 5 at all, have we?
No. In fact, I've got to copy back the template for this for editing because I forgot. I thought there was one already there.
Yeah, maybe for season 5, we should update the sound thing to be over the. You remember back in 2003 when we edited electricity coming off of us and stuff?
Yeah.
I was
like, yeah, that was fun.
That would be funny. Well, anyway, yes, let's get down to business.
So those who don't know, our lightning rounds in our case, it's we divvy up all of our main categories and take turns going back and forth, and neither of us knows what the other person's going to bring up. We got roughly 5 minutes to talk about whatever that is, and then at the very end, the last one, we both know what it is, and we put our thoughts into it. So yeah.
5 Hanukkah. That's only 32 hours.
Oh, so yeah, I guess I'm starting, aren't I?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And it's conspiracies.
Oh, conspiracies.
Yes. Okay, so
I'll just do the whole show like Sean Connery.
Please don't.
Conspiracies.
Yeah. So, okay. Birds aren't real.
Oh. I love that one. I guess it's it's not really a theory that anyone buys into, but it's also there's been a lot of footwork on it, right?
Oh yeah. It's a made up conspiracy theory to kind of I think the idea is to kind of lampoon some of the more wild conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
And it's but they make some good points that. It's pretty clever. It's kind of convincing if you didn't really think too deeply about it.
Right. So. I think my favorite was that it's all Obama's fault, but it all supposedly happened where all the real birds were replaced in the 1960s when Obama was not even born.
Yeah.
So, I was just kind of poking at that thanks Obama thing, I think.
Yep, I think so. Yeah. Well, and that's another factor in it that kind of points out the lunacy of some of the wilder conspiracy theories.
I mean, jokes aside, though, birds are kind of just dinosaurs, right? Yeah.
They are weird. There's some interesting things about them, crows, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
They're smarter than a lot of large mammals.
Oh yeah,
they're super duper smart, and it's oh, maybe they are robots or something.
Well, not just crows. I guess even some parrots, uh, they are capable of like answering questions,
Yeah.
like not just repeating stuff, but actually like responding in real time to an actual question, and that's a little freaky.
Well, and, I think crows also can learn to talk, but their lifespan
Yeah.
is a little shorter. So, like, parrots have a very long life, so they can learn a lot in that time
Mhm.
period. And parrots definitely, like, their thing is mimicking sounds and like learning patterns and things. So I could see how they could start to recognize patterns in speech
Mhm.
and kind of begin to comprehend what the meaning is.
Yeah,
Um,
there's other birds that mimic babies crying,
yeah,
cats, all kinds of weird stuff to just kind of like freak you out, or
yeah.
I don't really know what the evolutionary purpose of that is.
Well, it's like Predator, like, do you want some candy? Like that kind of thing. Like, oh man, that's terrifying. Like, yeah, if I were to hear like a baby in a tree crying, I'd just be looking for the three red dots on my forehead, like I'm going to die.
I, I wonder if that's like the flat earth thing. Like I kind of remember that wasn't really a thing for the longest time, like hundreds of years. And then
Well,
all of a sudden it was again. So is that also maybe like kind of a joke that went a little too far?
it could be like flat Earth. You mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
Like could
well,
that happen with the birds too,
yeah,
Like
exactly. Yeah, maybe. I mean, there are probably some people who take it very seriously.
yeah.
But like, yeah, I think flat Earth, like, obviously, a long, long time ago, people thought maybe it was flat, but then even a long, long time ago, they discovered that it's not, and even
Mhm,
measured the Earth's, dimensions.
mhm.
And then at some point, I think it wasn't even that long ago, maybe a couple hundred years ago, like the whole flat Earth thing kind of was born. um, and people got into it for a while, kind of like they got into it now. It was sort of a fringe thing, but a little more mainstream back then, maybe.
Mhm.
And then it kind of petered out, and now it's back again with the advent of like YouTube and stuff.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, back then the appeal to tradition was definitely at play, but like, what's going on now? Like,
it's I
uh,
follow it a lot because it's really interesting, but
yeah.
like, yeah, I don't get it. Um,
Well, there's that one YouTuber that you subscribe to that like just refutes flat Earth. Like,
oh, Simon Dan, yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Like he
that's
has a
it's
name like that, but all he does is like pick on the flat earthers. It's like no
well,
other science.
he does do some other stuff, but yeah, mostly it's like he does like tinfoil hat stuff too. So
Uh,
and like moon landing, hoaxing stuff. Like, oh, that's time.
blah,
Okay,
blah,
that
blah.
that was good though. Okay, so it's on to you with the economy.
The economy. All right. So, uh, given that we've talked a lot about AI and human rights being extended to them, uh, and the whole creation aspect that AI is dipping its virtual toes into, my question is, would you like a piece of toast? Um,
No, I don't want a piece of toast.
my question is, should AI be able to get patents?
Ooh. So yeah, if an AI generates something novel on its
Yeah,
own,
yeah.
I mean, yes. Well, it depends. It depends on whether we arrive at the conclusion that this particular AI is sentient. Um, because if, for instance, you're using AI as a tool, right? Like, let's
Mhm,
say it'd be a tool like anything else, like a drawing tablet or a pen or something. The pen wouldn't get the patent because the person was using the pen to draw out the design, and and an AI as it currently stands probably wouldn't be able to get a patent or a copyright on its work because it was a tool that a human being is using. But I feel like there's a point where it's rapidly getting close to sentience, I think. Like it'll
But
happen before we know it.
a pen doesn't like take artistic liberties on its own. You know, like
Sure.
with the AI, you just got kind of like ask it to do something, and it comes up with something. You know,
Well,
like
it is derivative. Well, I mean, of course, one could say that all human endeavors,
right.
creations are derivative.
Uh,
Because I mean, it's not necessarily dreaming up an idea. It's more like pulling bits and pieces from various places and stitching them together. But it's like, I mean, like I said, I think as it stands right now, it's still a tool, albeit a fairly advanced one. But like I said, I think we will, like, one day we'll wake up and a lot of AI will be sentient all of a sudden.
yeah.
Like it'll just happen out of nowhere. Um,
I mean, I already feel like it kind of should be classified as such.
yeah, maybe we
Yeah,
should be careful to like allow for that potential.
yeah, and it's not just art. It's like um now AI is getting into like solving genetic problems and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And you know, when it comes to things like patents, even though I think they're kind of stupid in
Yeah, yeah,
general,
I agree.
like the principle of it, you know, like you know the precedent, I guess we should say,
Yeah,
is
ownership
that
of your own idea, basically.
yeah, yeah. And it's not like it would just be the AI's intellectual property. With a patent, usually there's all kinds of names on it, like
Yeah,
and anyone who contributed to it. So it's not
exactly.
like we would be handing AI like 100% profit on some kind of invention, but they
Sure.
definitely do like provide like a powerhouse of different kinds of perspectives and thoughts on things.
I think, yeah, like just like scientific papers, typically there's a lot of
Yeah,
people who are credited, and I think maybe giving credit where credit's due and sharing in the rewards, whatever they may be, of
yeah.
that creation would be good. Although currently an AI wouldn't really be able to use any of those rewards, nor would it probably even expect or you know, want those kinds of things. Not the same things we would want. But still, maybe just the ownership, just the credit alone is enough. Like, hey,
Yeah.
at least they recognize me, you know, because that's actually getting recognition is worth more money than anybody has. Like, I mean, that's incalculable value.
Yeah. I mean, just the logistical possibilities that come from AI being allowed to kind of take the helm of things, like just from a business perspective, a financial perspective, if AI were like controlling how the money was spent and earned, it'd probably be way more efficient. Um,
Well, for sure, because it'd be able to relatively objectively analyze things and come up with solutions that regular people or even
yeah.
groups of people can't necessarily uh, figure out on
Oh
their own.
God, how cool would that be to like ask AI to be like, uh, what are your ideas on business ethics and stuff like that? Like, you see the CEO and how much he's making, and then you know, like, what do you think of that? And they'd be like, well, this is inefficient, you know.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, it'd be interesting to I that too is definitely a path that a business would benefit from
Mhm.
potentially,
Yeah.
for sure, utilizing that tool. But oh,
Ah,
that's time. That's a good one though.
yeah.
Okay, so it's my turn, I suppose.
Ah,
That
yes.
will be
Politics.
politics. Eesh. Blah. Okay, politics. And I've got one that's one of those ones that's going to make everybody barf.
Oh boy.
Um, yeah. What's the deal with gerrymandering?
Uh, let me make sure I've got the right political term in my head here. Is that
That's
uh,
like rearranging districts geographically.
oh,
So
oh,
different political parties try to put enough of their people in a certain space so that they gain an advantage.
right. Okay.
Like, how is that even allowed? Right? Like, what?
How is half the shit allowed
Well,
in politics? Like,
I mean, that one like alone seems just it. Like, I can't even. I don't know. How do people accept that?
yeah. I mean,
It's just
that
so
along with like
scammy.
lobbying and
Oh God.
filibusters and all kinds of this, uh, like they just put these funny names on them to kind of euphemism, like add a euphemism angle to it, like,
When
oh, what we're doing here is illegal, but if we give it a new name and make it sound kind of cutesy,
Well, yeah, the
it's okay
word
now.
that the word that applies to all of those things is corruption,
Hmm.
basically.
Yeah, pretty
Um,
much.
it's just like what you do, like what actions are performed to engage in this corruption.
And
But
this is why I think we need to move towards political anonymity. Like we've got the technology and the bandwidth to operate a country entirely without the um, popularity contest angle.
yeah,
Uh, like uh,
oh, I agree. Like,
parties shouldn't even be a thing. Like it should all just be about policy, efficiency, making it the best situation for the most amount of people.
yeah,
Like
I agree, and I don't even think that knowing, even maybe even seeing someone's face is almost too much.
yeah,
Uh,
definitely.
but yeah, you're right. Anonymity would be great. Um, that would change the game quite a bit, I think.
Mhm.
And I don't know that the partisan politicians would really want that because it's that whole
Definitely
conflict.
not. Yeah.
But like gerrymandering, man, like what? How like every year they're changing the lines. Like, oh well, they're this district is here and now it's over there, and then we're drawing
Yeah.
these squiggly lines, like crisscrossing different blocks and stuff. Like, what? Just make it a space and keep it that way. I don't
Yeah.
understand why it's changing all the time and how that even became a thing.
That's how you create power, like as a
Well,
real thing, is you manipulate a system to give you more control over others, and suddenly you have power.
well, I mean, it's
Uh,
manipulating to give them an advantage in like when they're running for office, essentially for votes
yeah.
and things.
Hmm.
So, oh, okay, this district is right here, and those people vote, and then adjacent to that is a different district, and those people their votes are counted. So it's like it twists reality, really.
Yeah. Really, there shouldn't even be like geographical zones for voting. Like if you if you are so impassioned to travel 3 states over just to vote on something that affects that state only or that city or whatever, okay.
Well,
Like
well, we should like the thing is that the thing that's being voted on should be counted within the boundaries of its effect, right? So if it's a state, if it's somebody who's like running for a state office, the whole state should be counted. If it's for a city office, just that city should be counted. It shouldn't be divided into sections, and each different section is weighed differently. It should just be the whole thing. Like if you're
yeah,
running for governor, count the whole state.
right.
That
Like
kind of
they've
thing.
got judges for different parts of the county,
Yeah,
for instance. Like what? Why?
that makes no sense. Well, and it
Like,
comes
yeah,
back to this whole thing that like it's manipulating the system to benefit
you know,
somebody.
that's basically saying that like right and wrong will shift and vary from block to block, basically.
Kinda.
Like the ethics on this block are way different than over there. Like,
Yep. Oops, some people moved. Let's move that line over to encapsulate the others now. Oh,
ah, geez,
that's time.
that was a
That's a really good one.
good one too.
So now it's on to you.
Uh,
And you have science.
Science. All right. Well, uh, I have another AI inspired one. There's something in the news recently that this is kind of coming down the pike. But what do you think about this AI basically engineering proteins?
Oh,
Um,
yeah. Well, I'm all for it. Like the
yeah,
AI is starting to be used in medicine and science of all sorts, solving problems that we've been have been stumped that have stumped us for a long time, and I think it's a good thing.
yeah.
Finding
And that's
answers to
actually what
stuff.
triggered my idea for like, wait a minute, should AI be in on a patent? Because like that's huge. Like I've been part of a think tank on stuff like this.
Hmm.
And do you know how many millions, tens of millions of dollars go into just humans thinking about things and fucking up over and over and over again for years?
Yeah.
When AI can just swoop in and knock this shit out like in a fraction of the time.
Well, and that's the nice thing about AI is like it can have access to the totality of our knowledge and find answers that would take people centuries, like or if they even figured it out at all.
Yeah.
Because like we're limited in our perceptions and our ways of analysis and things like that. Whereas it's like we would have to sit here and read all these papers and studies and all these things and then conduct experiments and stuff like that. And I think AI could do all of that in just the blink of an eye, or it will eventually. I mean, the
Yeah.
more we utilize it for this task, the better it's going to get at it.
And
And
here's the other great thing about this specifically. The potential for targeting disease and cancer and stuff like that, and creating more efficient and more humane treatments is that the conspiracy theory ideas that we haven't cured cancer because anyone that gets close to it, big pharma just kills them or something. You can't really kill AI if it comes up with a way to beat cancer, right?
it's true, especially if it's kind of running in an open world.
Yeah, and the ability to give it something legally uh, grounding as a patent would also prevent it from being, um, I don't know, operationally killed, if you will.
Yeah, there's
Like oh,
probably ways that are
yeah.
are akin to that,
Mhm.
but maybe a digital version. So
Yeah, but I love
crypto based something or other.
yeah, but it's like it's forward thinking too because like questions like that uh skirt the edges of things, like um they have these cells, HeLa cells they call them, that come
Mhm.
from this patient that died long 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 ago, Henrietta Lacks, and they use these cells and just keep propagating them and study them over and over again. So like pretty much all of science for the last 60, 70 years or something has had this person's cells to thank, and the family doesn't like benefit or profit from that whatsoever. So that's like an
And
ethical quandary.
it is. I mean,
um
it'd be nice if they at least got credit for it, like public notoriety of some sort.
yeah, I mean they kind of do, but like how many people have heard of it, right? and
That's
then
true.
and then does that put food on your table? No.
No.
you know
Well,
uh,
it's a little hard when you've been dead for a while, like I don't
yeah,
know. And then
and I
who
mean,
owns the cells? Is it the next of
yeah,
kin or something? Like I don't
it,
know how. That's a whole can of
yeah, like
worms
why
right
should the
there.
family profit from that? Like there's all kinds of angles to take on that. But when it
Yeah.
comes to like something that doesn't die, like AI,
Hmm.
never lived in the first place, depending on how you look at it. Um, if for some reason we thought maybe someday it might have beef with that, it would be a good idea to like start thinking about that now. Like, how do we want to handle that? What's the most fair way?
That's a good idea because
Because we are all going to benefit from it.
oh yeah. Well, one of the problems with almost every kind of revolution is that it's typically thought about in hindsight, and then you end up overcorrecting.
Hmm.
Like all this stuff, like when the internet came out, like all kinds of like it got well established long before any kind of like changes or regulatory systems were put in place. And of course, all those, they didn't even know what they were regulating.
Yeah.
um like the internet is a series of pipes or whatever. Like, I mean, none of these people know what they're even talking about.
Yeah.
um and so
Just
maybe,
the
yeah, get ahead of the game and place put some ideas at least into place, like a structure or a standard, I guess. That would be nice. Oh,
yeah. Oh,
that's time.
one quick thought though.
Sure.
To put the protein thing into perspective for people, like imagine how different the pandemic would have been if AI had in, like a day come up
Yeah.
with a vaccine that was like safe and effective and
And or a treatment of some sort,
and
like,
or
or
yeah,
just here's what we should be doing, rather than everybody running around and bonking into each other like, well, I don't know what to do, like, we'll pull this way, push that way. Like, yeah, it would have been great, like, oh, hey, this is a simple solution,
yeah.
like
So
that.
so stuff like this, I want people to not be afraid of it because that's the knee jerk reaction. Like, oh,
Yeah.
lab grown meat, I'm afraid of it. Like
Yeah, yeah,
AI
exactly.
made proteins for medicine. Wow, I don't like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, well, okay, we'll get on to the next topic, and that's religion. I think that's me. And I'll get into something that we, excuse
That's me in the corner.
me. So okay, so for religion, why are so many flat earthers Christians?
Oh, that's that's an interesting point. I've never really thought about that. It's not like, I mean, there's a lot of things the Bible doesn't say that people point to the Bible and say, look, here's what
Yeah,
the
yeah.
Bible says,
Reading
that sort
things,
of thing.
kind of reading in between the lines, essentially.
Yeah. So I'm not like a Bible expert, but I'm pretty sure there isn't some specific call out to be like, here's the flat earth. Oh, wait, okay. The corners of the earth or whatever, that phrase was, I think, in the Bible.
Well, and
But
there's also the
that's
creation
colloquial.
story, having to do with like the dome and the firmament and all this blah blah blah, and the waters above and below and stuff. It's like, it's kind of vaguely describing something like some flat earthers believe. And this is the thing, it's like, it's not really a coherent um principle, what it's philosophy. Everybody kind of has their own angle, but I have noticed watching a lot of flat earthers, like flat earth channels and stuff, that quite a few of them tend to also have this kind of Christian religion tie-in to things, which is interesting.
Yeah. I
Are
mean,
they,
it's
it's like,
probably nothing more than a correlation, but there are like, Christianity, religion in general. I mean, it kind of falls into this fairy tale thinking that you have to have in place to buy into something like the flat earth theory. Um, and yeah, I mean, you could say the same with young earth too, which is a little bit more straightforward of a link to
oh,
Christianity.
I could absolutely see that one. Yeah.
Um, but like in both situations, like, yeah, you've got like a stark contrast to science that they're leaning heavy on. They're like, yeah, but science, yeah, whatever. But like this one book says this, which I
Exactly.
interpret as a flat Earth or a young
Yeah.
Earth. So I'm right, obviously.
Well, and
Like
I
that
think,
that kind of thinking is a very special kind of
well,
thinking.
I think it's a lot of the appeal for that has to do with human beings' propensity to want to be part of an exclusive club. So if
Uh,
you're one of the people who know the secrets, right? You're special somehow. And I think everybody can fall into that trap rather
yeah,
quickly and easily. It's just a matter of like our psychology. We
yeah,
love being part of a special club. And that flat Earth is kind of like that. It's kind of fringe, and it
Yeah.
claims to know this arcane knowledge about how things really are. And I think that there's a lot of appeal that for that in people. um
There's
maybe even in Christianity too, especially now when it's not as dominant as it used to be. Now you're kind of in an exclusive group if
uh-huh.
you're a member of a particular church or something like that.
There's a lot of other Christian correlations, like Republicans and Christians and stuff like that. Um, and
And Democrats and Catholics. That's there. I see a lot of that too. It's kind of weird. Like,
yeah,
why is that? That's really strange.
yeah. But yeah, like on the flip side, like critical thinkers more often than not tend to come out as agnostic or atheist.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and yeah, like there have been studies that show that, like, and it's not meant as like a dig, but like higher intelligence tends to gravitate away from religion and all this conspiracy theory stuff.
The
And
woo stuff.
yeah, so like, I mean, that's a pretty strong correlation. I think I would draw the lines between like overall aptitude, let's say,
Mm-hmm.
um, which is like a super nice way of saying a little stupid, but like
Well, I
not
think
really like
it comes down to
not a derivative sort of.
no, and I don't think it's
Yeah,
like an inherent property of people. It's just a matter of like
no.
their education and exposure to information and their upbringing and stuff like that. That's really what does it. Uh, whoop,
Oh,
that's time. That's
that's
a
a
pretty good
pretty
one.
meta one.
Yeah. That could easily. I mean, so far any of these could pretty much be their own independent episode, I think.
So
Okay, so it's on to you, and you have tomfoolery.
tomfoolery. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, see? Hmm.
So this should be a fun one. Zuck versus Musk. Round one. Fight.
Ooh, man. Well, in what way?
Well, take your pick. Like, do you think this is real? Do you think it'll happen? Who do you think will win? Like, what's the point even? Like,
Yeah, yeah. I
it's
mean,
kind of funny, right? Like,
what's the point to anything, really? I mean, I don't know. I think it's just a show, like
uh,
something
but
people
have they
do.
got a beef or something? Like,
I don't think so.
they're not even like direct competitors, are they?
Not really. No.
Oh, wait. Elon Musk bought Twitter. That's right. So now I
Oh,
guess they are kind of competitors.
yep. Social media,
And
two
then
different social medias.
Zuckerberg just like out of nowhere released like his own version of Twitter, and because Elon Musk is like tanking the shit out of Twitter, like as
Mhm.
soon as he bought it, he changed some stuff and like it like just crashing and everything.
Yeah.
People
Well,
are
to
like
be fair,
leaving in
it was
droves.
already like wavering on the precipice before
Twitter's
that
always
happened.
sucked in my eyes, but
Yeah, it was.
uh,
It was. I don't know if that was the most brilliant decision, but whatever. I mean, eh. You win some, you lose some, right?
yeah. But
uh,
yeah, that just seems like a weird rivalry and an especially weird way to handle it. Like,
well, yeah. Well, the people used to settle their disputes with a duel back in the day.
hmm. But I mean, they're even like not even the same size. Like you usually when there's some kind of like cage match fight, they tend to try to pair people up in their own sort of like weight class, right?
Yeah,
So
that's
I mean,
true. I have a feeling like I'm picturing like Zuckerberg like just one punch and he goes woo and just drifts away or something. Although, but then again, he acts like he's a cyborg, so maybe he's like made of like super dense metal. Maybe he's like hyper strong, and
oh, gee.
he'll just sit there like holding the fist as it's coming at its face and just like and sweating profusely like he does. And then talk about his what's that sauce, the barbecue sauce that he always talks about. Like
The memes are gold though. Like
oh yeah.
I love shit like that. Like the
Well,
things people come up with, like movie
memes
trailer posters that AI creates where they look like these action stars and it says like Zuck around and find out.
memes are my favorite thing, man. Like
Yeah.
it makes serious things like a little bit lighter and more digestible.
Yeah.
It also like brings to light a lot of things in a way that is like easier to handle, maybe like and makes light of bullshit stuff that's going on, kind of like diffuses the big stuff, I guess, in a way.
Yeah. It's a sort of like subspace thread kind of holding dialects together and languages together, because it's something that like some memes you don't understand because you're not into that part of culture or whatever, but for the most part, like there are memes where it could be in a different language and you still can laugh at it
Yep.
because
Yeah, as
like
long as it's not necessarily dependent on you knowing the language, but just the
yeah.
imagery alone can be enough. It's yeah, it's
Mhm.
kind of becoming sort of a universal language in a way. Like it's going to be like
Yeah.
Star Trek Darmok, that episode.
Right.
Like it in a way that they
It actually
communicated
is a
through
lot
memes.
like that when you think about it.
Yeah.
Because like that had like an underlying language to it. I think we've talked about that before, where it's
Yep.
like it's
Symbolic.
weird that it translates the words themselves into English with the universal translator, but the part that you can't translate is the one that's dependent on the pop culture.
Exactly. Well, yeah, yeah.
You
It's a
have
really
to know about that.
fascinating thing that yeah. And what's interesting too is with a meme, you can convey something, a very complex idea that it would be stupid to do in words.
Yeah.
Where like one picture with a word or a sentence under it is enough to convey something extremely complex. And typically memes
Entire
have a little
context and everything.
yeah,
Like,
memes have a little bit of humor and a little bit of truth and typically some irony built in, and that's what makes good ones. Ah,
right.
well, that's
Ah,
time.
damn.
That's a good one.
I
Yeah.
like how that kind of turned into a thing about memes. Like we should do an episode on memes, actually.
We should. Yeah, we definitely should.
Make a note of that.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
We could even do one.
philosophy.
Oh, yeah. Philosophy. That would be me. Okay. So is the glass half empty or half full?
Hmm. I don't want to be pedantic, but both. Uh, I mean, right? Like,
I, true. You are correct in that. But typically people like,
I mean, even
and this is a,
philosophically, I think that, like,
yeah, I mean, this is it's representative of a whole bunch of different things, obviously. Like, um, and I think people perceive it depending on how they kind of perceive things in general. Like,
mhm.
oh, it's half full or it's half empty. And I suppose one could say it's half full when you're filling it, and it's half empty when you're consuming it. That's one way to look at it. That's my uh,
or
logic
or
way of looking at it.
or is the better state to be fully empty when most people assume fully filled is what you want to achieve, right?
Mm-hmm.
But water is like the life source, right? Like, shouldn't it be in you? Shouldn't you have drank the entire glass?
Exactly.
So
Well, that's a good point.
like the negative, let's say, like not a negative in a like Eeyore sense, but a negative in like taking away a problem. That's usually how I try to view things. It's like be grateful for the water that's there, but let's try to get more
Yeah,
and then drink it all. You know,
that's pretty fair, I think. Yeah.
yeah. Prepare for the worst, but hope for the best is always kind of my philosophy, and that
Yeah.
and that equates in this sense to half empty and half full.
Sure. Yeah, I think that's fair, because I mean,
Right.
that kind of philosophy applies not just to glasses of water, but to anything.
Right.
Like, how do you look at the situation? It's like, in a way, it could be better, it could be worse. It always could be. Doesn't matter where you are, what your station
Couldn't
in
be
life is.
better. It could be worse.
Yep, yep. Classic lyrics from old ALTAiR. Yeah, that
Yeah.
would be a good song to have at the end of this.
Yeah, the whole optimism and pessimism thing. Have we done an episode on that yet?
I don't know. I don't
I
think so.
don't think so. That would be a really good one because there's a lot to unpack in that. I've had people tell me that I'm negative. I've had people that tell me I'm the most positive person they know. It's like, how can you be both?
Well, it depends on the perspective of the person saying it, I guess.
Yeah. Like, yeah, really, it's all circumstantial. Uh, my wife will sometimes, you know, get kind of like a secondary stress from me stressing about a problem.
Hmm.
But then like I come up with a solution and I fix it and I'm all happy. And then she's still stressed and she's like, I wish you wouldn't have just stressed out so much. But I'm like, that's my process. Like that's how I fix the problem as quick as possible.
Hmm.
Is I hyper focus on it.
Well,
So
and that's,
in
yeah,
that
stress.
moment, I sure look like a negative person, right? But in the end, I've reduced the amount of time that I'm going to be like inconvenienced by a
Well,
problem.
yeah, and I don't like stress isn't necessarily a bad thing. And I think it really kind of comes down to like how you use it, right? Because for a lot of people, stress is a barrier to progress. But if you channel that, you
Mhm.
can get a lot of work done. Um, I mean, there's also ways of like diverting stress so that you can kind of step aside from it so you can deal with a problem too. It kind of just depends on how you deal with stuff, I
Yeah.
guess.
Too much of anything is generally bad. So of course there is like a breaking point with stress
Hmm.
of any kind.
Sure.
Uh,
And I suppose if you're able to recognize that and switch gears,
yeah.
then there you go. Like,
I mean, like, let me tell you, like the process of moving to Germany and getting my visa and all this stuff, like it's finally kind of simmering down and all the pieces have fallen into place, like pretty beautifully, actually. Like, and I was under so much stress, but had I not been, I would not have been prepared for all these things. Like, there have been so many moments where I was like, I'm really glad I stressed out about that so hard because I was prepared
exactly.
with everything. Like, yeah. So there you go.
All right. Well, that's a whole nother, we've got another episode here.
Yeah. As usual with the lightning round, we
Yep.
come up with 9 awesome episode ideas in 1 hour.
Crazy. So I guess moving on now, we're at the penultimate topic here,
Yes, we
category,
are.
which is current events.
Current events. Aha.
Yes.
Yes. What are your thoughts on the Russian coup failure?
Oh God. Yeah, where the Wagner group came in and headed to well, they didn't really head very far, but I guess their aim was Moscow, I guess. Um,
You
yeah.
probably know more about this than me. Like I just kind of briefly caught something about it on the news when I was visiting the Tacoma area recently, and my first thought like was like, oh, those people are dead now, right? Like if you try to go against Putin and you fail, like
Well, Prigozhin, the main guy in the Wagner Group, he's got a lot of clout,
uh
and so it was kind of like they sort of reached an agreement, I guess, is
mm,
the thing. Like, well, we're backing off, and then the everybody there had the choice of like buggering off to Belarus or joining the Russian military. And it seems like people are choosing the latter or something. I mean, it's still kind of,
Oh wow.
a lot of moving parts still, but yeah, that was kind of wild. I mean, it only went for like a day or two or something like, but
Do you think it could happen again?
oh, for
Like,
sure.
yeah,
Actually, Russia has a history of stuff like that.
yeah.
Like it's so yes, I think it could happen again. Although the Russian people tend to be kind of not very active, like not very revolutionary nowadays. Probably because of their, the long Soviet experience, where you couldn't be very revolutionary. That would
Hmm.
quickly get you killed or exiled or something. Um, so I think this just cultural that they're not very inclined to protest or do a whole lot. But everybody has their breaking point, and I think if another round of drafts happen, uh, I mean, considering how many Russian soldiers have been killed over there in Ukraine, it's a lot. Um, People are going to take
Well,
notice, and it,
weren't they all under the spell of propaganda, thinking it would just be a cakewalk and Ukraine would just throw their hands in the air and say, "Okay,
yeah, oh
you
yeah,
can have whatever you want," but like instead they got their asses kicked.
yep. And they also were told that there was like Nazis or something
Right?
all over
Yeah.
the place, and they need to liberate the Ukrainian people from the Nazis. And then they get there and they're like, "Where are the Nazis?" And the people in the villages are like, "Well, what are you talking about? There's no Nazis. Like, get out of here." And so, yeah, I mean, I think the veil is slowly lifting,
Mm,
for a lot of people. But back in the home country, there's a lot of people that are still under, they're seeing things in a very propagandistic way. I guess there's still an illusion there that things are
yeah.
going well and da da da.
How much of that is going on, and how much is just like, I mean, like even in like Nazi Germany, I feel like most of the German citizens were like, "This guy's just fucked up," but he's like super scary too. You know,
Well,
like,
yeah, and I think that that sentiment exists in Russia as well.
mhm.
But again, you can't on your own voice a dissent in that sort of culture where dissent is
Right.
dangerous.
Yeah.
So people getting together, you need a. I mean, the fact is, Hitler never had any actual power, and neither did Stalin. Putin doesn't have any actual power. I mean, all it takes is everybody to be like, nope, and then what can he do? Like rant and rave all he wants, but it's like, well, nothing. You got nothing. But what it is, it's fear. So people are afraid to act individually, obviously, and they're afraid to get together. And even a fairly sizable group could meet some resistance. And then if you don't succeed in whatever you're attempting to do, well, that's it for you and your family and everything.
Yeah.
So, and what basically at what cost? And maybe they're like, well, things are still okay. It's not that bad. I guess, I'd rather have a roof over my head and feed my
Yeah.
family than take the risk.
Going back to the glass half full thing, like sometimes that optimism really does you a disservice, like, oh, things aren't that bad.
Oh,
Like you just
that's
roll with the
timely.
status quo, like
I know. I agree. That's that, and
not
that
always
can be
good.
no, and maybe that's something we should probably, and that could we could do an episode about that. I think something along
Hmm.
those lines about like malaise, essentially, how people just they're just kind of drifters, essentially,
Yeah.
like allowing things to happen when it's very easy to change them.
I
Or
feel
not
like this
even,
particular lightning round episode is such a kitchen sink conglomeration that the whole thing could be just an episode of like
yeah,
AI and Russia and like
in a way, a lot of
optimism
these,
and pessimism.
yeah, these things all kind of tie in together. This is interesting how this kind of came together. Like, wow,
Yeah,
very
like
interesting.
there's so many different directions I want to go on all of these things. Like
I know.
Even like nuclear war. Well, that's a good segue, actually.
So the last category, the one that we both
Indeed.
know about, that's public health and
Yes.
safety.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, what would you put in your nuclear bug out bag?
Whew. Well, certainly some protective gear. I like that would be a main thing. And probably some kind of any one of the anti radiation tablets, basically
Hmm.
potassium iodate or something like that. Very, very important, at least early on, for the stuff
Is
that
is iodized salt like a good backup, or is it
maybe
completely like
maybe
different
so
chemistry?
it has to do with your thyroid basically, and like certain byproducts of nuclear combustion like they get taken up. Iodine essentially gets
Mhm.
taken up into your thyroid, radioactive stuff, and that's very bad. So if you can flood your thyroid and your system with iodine that's not radioactive, then there's no room at the end essentially. So you'll hopefully not absorb much of that.
Hmm.
But that's only one thing. There's a whole bunch of different things you need to consider. At least one Geiger counter for sure. You can get them; they're super cheap. You can get them all, from $30-$40 all the way up to like a couple $1,000 depending on what you want. But I mean, just anything so that you can kind of gauge how radioactive something is. Now, keep in mind too, the most likely scenario in a nuclear war is not a ground burst, which is what creates fallout. It's most likely going to be an air burst of some sort, because that creates the most destructive force over the widest area and typically knocks out technological things. So that's a secondary benefit of an air burst. It was fairly similar in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, actually. It wasn't a ground burst, which is why people live there today.
Huh.
But either one is kind of bad.
So that kind of brings up a good question. Like, if there was a nuclear war, like, how much do people really need to worry? Like,
um,
in the U.S., for instance, like, um, what's kind of the footprint of an actual nuclear attack? Because obviously, it's going to be like very targeted areas,
yeah, it'll
like,
be strategic targets generally, especially at first, because that whole like mutually assured destruction thing, like it's going to be typically aiming for either large cities or military targets or both.
yeah.
And so if you're a little ways away from those things, you probably don't have a lot to worry about. Now, a huge nuclear exchange certainly would be bad. Um, but, it's still possible to survive a nuclear exchange if you're not like, at ground zero, say like right next to a military base or something like that.
But
Um,
because of MAD, do you think it could go that far, really? Like, do you think it would just peter out real quick from,
well,
like, like the first volley and people being like, oh shit, like this is whoa.
I think a lot of people would be very scared to push that button on both
Uh-huh.
sides of an exchange because of the implications. Like
We
this
should
is
hope so.
there's no turning back. Yeah. Now we have interception systems too, so probably quite a few will be intercepted, but not all.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and obviously certain things could go wrong where instead of an air burst, you get a ground burst, and then you have fallout, and then like an area is going to be uninhabitable for quite a while. Um,
Yeah.
so and judging based off of like say Russian missile failures and stuff, I could venture to guess that there would be a lot of mistakes like that.
Uh,
um, but I don't necessarily see that happening. I think it's the implications are so huge that I don't know like if anybody would think that it's really worth it to do that. There's
yeah,
a
I
great movie called By Dawn's Early Light, I think, that kind of touched on that, like what if, and
uh-huh.
it's pretty good, like a really good movie. Um, but I let's hope saner minds prevail.
Yeah.
Because
I really doubt, I really doubt that it would ever come to that, but there is a lot of posturing and
well, yeah, and I mean,
threats of that
whether
nature.
it be the president of the U.S. or the president of Russia or whatever, if they just said, "Hey, launch the nukes," well, most people there's a chain of command and stuff like that. There's other well, that's time. But I was gonna say there's a lot of steps in between. Like it's not like they can just make it happen. It requires other people to concur.
Shit, guys, we got the missiles. They are coming. Fire our shit. But I'm less tired. Well, have a nap. Then fire the missiles.
Yeah.
Basically. Oof, that was a
Yes, I do indeed wholeheartedly concur.
Oh, that'd be a good clip to put in if we could really put clips in without getting issues.
Yeah.
I think Star Trek would be a little easier than Red Dwarf, apparently.
Yeah, what the hell?
Yeah, I know. God, crazy.
Well, dang, that was yet another good lightning round.
That was really, really good.
All kinds of great ideas for episodes.
Oh, yeah. Man, that's
people should tell us their favorite topic.
Yeah.
You want to see fleshed out as an entire episode on kitchen sink microscopy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and just share your thoughts on any of these things too, just in general. We'll certainly go deeper. We'll deep sink dive into a few of these, I'm sure.
That's what she said.
Oh yeah, coming
back to being adolescent.
Back to the beginning. Yep.
we like take an hour pause and get all deep and intellectual and philosophical, and then we go back to making dick jokes.
Yep, exactly. As you'd expect.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, thanks for sticking it out. Check out the song in the end, and have a good day or night or whatever, everybody. See you later.
Penis.